Hello everyone, this is KenBroTech from KenBroTech and welcome back to the channel. So in this two-part series video, we are going to build this beautiful web application in Flask. So I've had a number of requests to do a Flask video, and this is the first of its kind. So in this video, we are just going to look at the very fundamentals, the basics, and in subsequent videos, we are going to go deep into Flask. So with this particular one, this is a simple to-dos application. And we have our navbar showing up over here. We have the statistics section where I have the total to-dos. We have the completed, uncompleted, and we have this to-dos form showing up over here. And currently we don't have anything in our database. So as you can see, there's this showing up over here. Beautiful. That's no to-do in database. Now, if we would want to create one, then we would have to add some or create new to-do in the to-do form over here. And that's what we have in here. So over here I can say learn Flask. Now when I click on add, you can see that that message disappears, and now I have add over here, or I have my first to do as learn Flask. I have the total as 1. It is uncompleted at the time of adding. Now I can add another one, so learn SQL. And when I say this, or when I add this, I have learn SQL over here. You can see that the total has changed to 2. The uncompleted is still 0. Now when I click on update to complete this, you can see that the complete is now 1 and uncompleted has also changed. So definitely the mathematics or the logic is working out over there. And now when I also complete this, you can see that now the completed is 2 and the uncompleted is 1. So this is basically what you are going to build. So in this particular video, you are going to learn the fundamentals of Flask. And this is a very simple application. So you're going to learn the fundamentals of Flask, and we're going to use HTML and Bootstrap to build this interface. So the video is in 2 parts. The first part pretty much looks at the basic fundamentals, how we set our Flask environment, and we'll finish it up with building the UI, the user interface. And in the second video, we are going to look at the Flask implementation of the CRUD functionalities. I hope you find value in both videos, and don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section, and any question thereafter, I'll be glad to answer you. So we are going to go straight into building the web application. I normally prefer to have my projects on my desktop so that I can easily have access to it whenever I want to. So I'm going to create a folder on my desktop. So I'll right click and go into new and folder. And I'm going to call this Flask app like this and press enter. So I have this folder on my desktop. And I'm going to open up VS Code, and I'm going to navigate through my file system. So I'll click on file, go to open folder, and I'll go through desktop and grab this folder and click on select folder. So at this point, I have the Flask app folder selected, and I can start building my application in here. But before I continue, let me also do this. Open up this folder, and inside of the address bar over here, I'm going to type cmd. So all I'm trying to do is to open up a command prompt window in this particular directory. And as you can see, this in my C drive, my name over here, desktop folder, and inside of this, I'm in the Flask app folder. So we are going to use this. But let's come in here and also open the terminal over here. And inside of this terminal, we are going to create a virtual environment. So this is what is recommended in the Flask documentation. So if I'm to click on installation, and of course, I'll leave this link in the description below, and come to the very bottom over here, you can see that virtual environment. So it is saying that use virtual environment to manage the dependencies of or for your projects, both in development and production. So this is what is required, and this is how you create a virtual environment in Mac OS or Linux. This is what you do, and in Windows, this is what you do. So I'm using a Windows machine, so I'm going to show you exactly what you do over here. So the first process is what we have done. As you can see, make directory my project. So this is what will create the folder, and you navigate through to the folder, and you can create a virtual environment using this command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up at one point and also bring in my system over here. So I'm going to create a virtual environment, and the way you should go about it is to type in Python -m. So that's almost like make, and you do a venv, that's virtual environment, and a name you would want to call your virtual environment. So I'm calling it venv, and it is going to create in this folder. So I'll press enter, and as you can see, a folder has been created and it will gradually build up. So whilst it is building up, let me just open things up and show you. So these subfolders are being created inside of this virtual environment we have over here, and now you can see that these files have been created, and whenever you are done creating this, it will complete running. Now if I'm to do a pip list, and once again let me just zoom in a little bit. If I'm to do a pip list over here and press enter, now this is going to list all the Python packages I have installed on my system, and this is my global environment. So the global environment is on my C drive, and everything in here is what I have installed on my system. Good. Now what the virtual environment does for us is the fact that we will be able to create an environment that is out of our global environment, so we can install new packages, and this is very good. It is even advisable to do so whenever you are creating a project, because a lot of the projects will have dependencies to other applications and libraries. So in order to activate the virtual environment, it's a very simple thing to do. You can see that we have this folder over here, which is our virtual environment folder. So I type in venv, or the name you decide to use, and you do a slash. That means you are going into it, and you will go into scripts. So I'll type in scripts, and I'll do another slash, and inside of scripts I would want to activate it by selecting activate. So the way I go about it is I type in activate, and pay attention over here. You can see that we are in our C drive, okay, because this is prefixed by a C. Now if I'm to press enter, now we are going to see that our virtual environment is going to be activated. So as you can see, we have venv, and we have this showing up over here. Now if I'm to go back and do a pip list and press enter, you can see that in this particular virtual environment we only have pip and setup tools. So it's almost like a new installation we've done on our system, and this is exactly what we are going to use for our application. So the first thing to do is to install the Flask library. So once again, I'll do a pip install, and I'll type in Flask and press enter, and the installation is going to start. It will probably take a few seconds, and you'll be good to go. So here we are, done with the installation. So once again, if I'm to do a pip list and press enter, we can see that we have Flask over here, but in addition to Flask, we also have other dependencies. For instance, Ginger 2, which we are going to use because Ginger 2 is a template engine we are going to use to work with Flask. So this is looking great, and we have everything. We can start working. So I'm going to close this up. Now I usually don't work in this particular environment because in this terminal, because I've had some few issues working in this terminal, and that's why I open up this. Okay, but if it works for you over here, then that's great. So we are going to create a Flask application, and this is very simple. So we'll come inside of this. I'll click here, and I'll create in a file. So I'll call this app.file because that's our app. So just about here, we would want to import the Flask library over here. So I'm going to say from Flask, and this is a module. As you can see, you have this icon over here. So from Flask, I would want to import. There is a Flask class over here, and this icon shows that there's a class. So from Flask, I would want to import Flask. Okay, so definitely when you hover around it, it tells you that there's a class and it has a number of information over here. So after importing the Flask class, I would need to create an instance of it, and the way we go about it is to have a variable, for instance app, and app is going to be equal to the Flask class, and we'll instantiate it this way like we've done. So there's an object we are creating out of this Flask class over here, but inside of this parenthesis I need to put out a double underscore, so underscore underscore name underscore underscore, and it's going to complete this particular process. So I have this app object I can now use. Now in order to use this object, it is very simple. So this is a web application and we will need to have some kind of route, and the way we go about this is, first of all, let's have a function. So we have a function index, and this is going to be our index page, and for now let's just return some kind of a string. So I'll say index page, and I'll save this. And in order for this to work properly, we need to give this a route, and this route is going to be like the www.indexpage.com, that kind of a route. And in order to do so, remember we have this object over here, so we can have a decorator, and a decorator is basically a function that gets executed before this function index will get executed. So we'll bring the @ symbol and do app.route, and inside of this we need to pass in a string, and a string for the index page we are just going to use the slash over here. So this is going to be an index page, and as simple as what we have over here is going to create the page for us. Now in order to run this application, we need to come inside of our terminal and do a Flask run. So now when I do a Flask run and press enter, we are going to see that this is going to start running, and clearly we have a warning over here. Don't worry, we are going to fix some of these things as we move along, but clearly you can see that the environment is production, and the warning is saying this is a development server, do not use it in a production environment, and it has debug mode turned to off by default, and it is running on this particular link. So I'll copy this link as I have over here. I'll do a Ctrl+C, and then I'll come inside of my web browser and paste it over here and press enter. So clearly you can see that we have index page showing up over here, and that's looking great. Now let's come in here and, for instance, change this to home page and save. And if I'm to come in back here and refresh, we are not getting our home page over here, and that's simply because of what we have over here, and debug mode is turned off. So in order for this to work, I'll first of all need to quench the server and type in Flask run again. So the application is running, and now when I refresh, we see we have home page over here. So this can be going on and on for a while, and we don't want to be working with our projects this way. So a simple way to go about this is to change the debug mode, turn it on, and for which reason we are going to set the environment to a development environment. So in here, I'll quench the server, do a Ctrl+C, and I'll type in set Flask_env, that's the environment, then is equal to development. So I'm saying set Flask_environment is equal to development, and I'll press enter, and once again I'll do a Flask run. And now when I press enter over here, you can see that we are not getting any warning. You can see that the environment is set to development and the debug mode is set to on. With the same address over here, you can see that we also have restarting with stats and other things over here. So we don't seem to have any problem. So now if I come back and come and refresh, yes, we are good. If I'm to go back to index page and save this, I need not to restart my server, but now there's hot reload, and for which reason you can see that immediately I refresh, I have index page over here. So moving forward, this is what we are going to do. All right, so having done this, the next thing is to look at how to kind of make this work properly. And once again, let me just do this and show you something very interesting. So in here, there could be several ways of running this application. Now, if I type in Python app.py and press enter, it is not working, and it's not working because of something. Now, under normal circumstance, typing in Python app.py is supposed to make this run. So in order to get that one working, we can simply do if __ name __ is equal to, and inside of a string __ main __ we are going to say app.run, and I'm going to say debug is equal to true, like this. So having done this, when I save this and when I come back here and do a Python app.py and run this, you can see that this is also working. So basically what this line of code is trying to say is, if the instance of this app we have created over here, the object, if it is the main app, then you cannot run it and set the debug to true. So either ways, we can run our application by just doing Python app.py, or we can go by Flask run. Good. So this is something you should keep note, and you should always have it at the very tail end of your application. So this is just one route. Now let's create another route, and also I'm going to have the app.route over here, and inside of a string I'm going to have something like /about. So this is going to be an about page, and I'm going to have a function. I'm going to call this about, and I just want to return a string, and I'll say about page. I'll save this, and now when I come back here and come and refresh, we don't seem to have any problem because this is our index page. Now if I'm to do a /about and press enter, you can see that we have our about page showing up over here. So this is looking good. Now let's come back here, and we can actually wrap this up in, for instance, an h1 tag. So I'll cut this, and inside of an h1 tag like this, I'll close the h1, and inside of its body I'll have about page. I'll save this, and now if I refresh, you can see that this is showing a little bit bold, and it's exactly in an h1 tag. And now if I'm to go back to my index page, this is exactly what we want. Good. So far so good. We've seen how to set out our virtual environments. We've seen how to import our Flask module and get our Flask class over here. We've created an instance of this class with the name app, and we've created an index page, and it is just returning the strange index page, but then we have it pointing to this route. So this is a home page, and we've also done so by creating an about page, and this is a route /about, and it will call this function, and this function will just return an h1, and inside of the h1 we have about page. And finally, we are bringing this up here because in some cases we just want to have our application running by the name, so we can do Python app.py, and it's going to work as we've seen. So the next thing we are going to look at is pretty much trying to restructure things a little bit. So clearly we cannot continue building our application in strange statements like this. This is not going to work. So in most cases, what you have with Django, and trust me, I have tons of videos on Django is the fact that we have some kind of architectural framework. So you have the models, the views, and the templates. Now in Flask, you would have to create your own models, views, and templates. And it's very simple actually. So this is going to be like our business logic. So this is going to be like our views, because this is where we have all our functions. Now let's create a template folder. And in order to do so, there's a Flask way of handling things, and that's what we are going to go by. So I'll click inside of this. I'll make sure that I have my pointer pointing to outside so that it goes into the root directory, and I'll click on this and I'll type in templates. So Python says, or Flask expects us to use the word templates, nothing more, nothing less. So we are going to have our templates over here. Now in order to use the templates, we need to have another import, and this is going to be also from the Flask module, and we are going to import render template. So this render template method is now going to help us, and you can see that it has a number of information over here if we should look at it this way. So instead of return this string, I can now do return render templates, and I'll need to pass in the name of the template. So for instance, I can say index.html. I'll save this. Now if I'm to come in here and come and refresh, clearly we are going to catch in an error because it says the templates not found, index.html is not found. And it's not found because indeed we haven't created any index.html. And the way we go about this is to come in here. So I'll click on this templates folder that I've created and click on this to create a file. Now I have index.html like this. So this index.html is going to be the same name I have over here. And inside of this, I can now have in my HTML templates, the starter templates, and I can do an H1. And inside of this, I can say home page from template. So I'll save this, and now if I'm to come back here and refresh, we see we have home page from templates, and that's simply because of the logic we are writing over here. So we are trying to say that inside of this index page, return render templates. So we are rendering a template, and the template name is index.html. This index.html is located in this templates, and that's what we have over here. And inside of index.html, we have this logic where we are writing the statements in an h1 tag. So gradually we are building our application, and if your guess is as good as mine, we can now focus on building our templates and later write our logic. So in this part of the video, I'm going to concentrate on building our templates, and in the second part we are going to see how we build our logic and perform those CRUD functionalities you saw me demonstrate earlier. So in order to get this working, of course, we are going to use Bootstrap. So I'll go to the Bootstrap official website, and that's getbootstrap.com, and I'll leave the link in the description below. Now, as at the time of recording this video, the latest version is 5.2. Now I'll downgrade a little bit to 5.1.3, and we are going to grab the CDN. So I'll come in here, and once again I have videos on Bootstrap you can check out. I'll leave a link in the description and also in the card showing up over here, and you can check out my playlist on Bootstrap. So I'm going to copy this. So what Bootstrap does for us is, it is simply one of the world's most popular framework for building responsive mobile first sites. Okay, so instead of writing a lot of CSS, we are just going to use the Bootstrap classes which have already been built for us. Now the way I structure my work when using Bootstrap, and especially if you have watched some of my Django videos, is I definitely would want to follow some kind of a pattern. And it's very good if you develop your own pattern, because it makes you remember things very quickly, and if there's a problem and you are trying to debug or trying to fix an issue, you know exactly where to go if you follow a particular paradigm. So with this particular paradigm, And let me just show you this. So inside of this template folder, I'll click on this and I'll have another folder. I'll call this dashboard. Then I'll also click on this template once again and I'll have another folder called partials and I'll press enter. Don't worry if you are not seeing these icons on your system. I have an extension that's showing me or that's displaying these icons, okay, and they are not anything, it's just for aesthetic purposes. So I have this dashboard and I have partials folder over here. Good. Now if I'm to, for instance, grab this, okay, and what I'm simply doing is I'm moving this index.html into dashboard. So it is asking me, are you sure you want to move index.html into dashboard? Yes, I would want to move. So clearly you can see that inside of this templates folder, I don't have index.html directly in it, but I have it inside of dashboard.html. Good. Now if I'm to save this and come back here and come and refresh, we are definitely getting an error because it is still not able to point out to the index.html. So it says template not found. Now that's simply because the file structure has changed, and the way we can fix this is basically to come in here and say dashboard / index.html. So we are saying that yes, it is inside of the templates folder, but then it is inside of a subfolder called dashboard over here. So now when I save this and come back here, we have this showing perfectly. Now once again, the reason why I'm doing this is to kind of restructure our folder so that things will become a little bit organized moving forward, and we are going to understand as we move along. So inside of partials folder over here, I'm going to click on this, and you can see anytime I want to target a particular folder, I collapse the others so that I don't get confused. So I'll click on partials and I'll click on new file and I'll have base.html. I'll press enter. So base.html is going to have our base Bootstrap CDN, and we are doing this because we would want to use template inheritance, and I'll explain as we move along. So back again, I'll come in here and the CDN I grabbed, I'm going to copy it once again and I'm going to paste this in here. So inside of this we have the basic HTML templates, but then interestingly we have the Bootstrap CSS, and this is the CDN. You can see that it is linking to some kind of a link over here, and it says CDN. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network, and this is where the Bootstrap classes are hosted online, so we can use them. And you can see that the title is Hello World and it has an H1 inside of the body, Hello World, and you also have some JavaScript stuff showing up over here. So this is looking great. Now I'll save this, and if I'm to come back here and come and refresh, nothing is going to work. Or nothing is going to change because we haven't done anything to change things. Now what we can do is we can come inside of index.html and get rid of everything we have over here. Okay, so I'll get rid of everything here and I'll refresh, and you can see that nothing is in here. But now I would want to inherit from the base.html. So if I say I want to inherit from base.html, what I'm trying to say is I want to have some kind of a copy of this code pasted over here with just one single line of code. So in order to do so, we use the template tag, and that's the reason why in our installation, and I think this will be a little bit up over here. Good. In our installation, when we're installing Flask, see that it came along with Ginger 2, and this is a template engine that we are going to use. So if you have watched other Django videos, and I'll leave the link in the description, you are going to be very comfortable and familiar with everything I'm doing over here. So far we haven't done so much of Flask. We are just building the UI and we are just applying some of the design principles and engineering principles over here. So inside of this curly brackets, I'll bring in percentage signs, and inside of this I'm going to type in extent, and inside of a string I'll do partials / base.html. So what am I doing over here? And I'll save this. So all I'm trying to say is this index.html, it extends from some kind of a file, and the file is in partials, and the name of the file is base.html. So now when I save this and come back here, you can see that we don't have anything over here yet, but immediately I refresh, we seem to have a problem, and that's simply because we didn't spell partials correctly. So it says what we have over here, and you see that some of these errors are beginning to make sense because this is the name we gave it, partial, so there's an I over here. So I'll save this once again, and if I come back here, we see we have hello world, and this is the index.html. Don't get it wrong, this is the index.html because that's exactly what we are returning from this. But because we are extending from base.html, it is going to grab everything we have in base.html and display it inside of it. So for instance, if I'm to change this to, let's say, the title to home, and I'm going to change the text over here to index page from base, I'll save this, and now when I run this, you can see that I have index page from base. Now I'm going to proceed to make other interesting stuff over here. You can see that with this about page, we have it's just showing up or rendering some kind of strange over here. I'd also want to render a template, so I'll clear this and I'll do render template, and inside of this I'd also want to have this in dashboard, so I'll do a dashboard /about.html. I'll save this, and inside of about.html, inside of dashboard, I'll click on dashboard and I'll click on this to create a file. So I'll have about.html. I'll press enter. Good. Now I'll save this. We don't seem to have any problem over here. Now if I'm to do a /about, you can see that there's nothing showing up over here. With that same line of code, if I'm to do or bring in my Ginger template tag, and I'm also going to say extends, and this is also extending from partials /base.html. Now I'll save this, and if I come back over here, you can see that I have, even though this is a about page, we have index page from base. Okay, if I'm to go back to the base or the index page, I also have the same text showing up over here, and that's simply because they are all extending or inheriting from the base.html. Good. Now this is looking great, but there's even a better way of handling things, and that's with we using another template tag over here. So I'm going to clear this off. I'll save this, and clearly it is off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another block template tag. So I'll do this, and inside of this I'm going to say block content. So this block is a keyword, and the content can be anything you would want to write over here, and I'm going to say end block over here. So like I said, this block is a keyword, so I can say block content 1 and it's going to work, but the end block is very important. You need to bring it over here, and I'll save this. Now let me just copy this, Ctrl+C, and I'll come to index.html. So after inheriting from the base.html, I would want to bring this block content, and I can now pass in, for instance, an h1, and I'll say home page. I'll save this, and I have an extension that's auto formatting everything I have over here for me, but I don't want it that way, so I'll just put up a break tag over here. Maybe you may not have this problem, it's all right. So inside of my index.html, I have home page. Now copy the same thing, do a Ctrl+C, come into my about page, paste this over here, and I'll say about page over here. And once again, I'll just break this up over here. So this is what we are doing. Inside of our base.html, we have this block content block tag we have over here. So all that we are trying to say is put this block content, okay, and anytime, because we are inheriting from partials, anytime you see block content, fixing this kind of block of code or piece of the UI. So this is about.html, and we are going to see index.html over here. And this is good because then we can render dynamic data or information on different pages. So in here, when I do a refresh, I have home page, and when I come back and do a /about, you can see that I have about page. So if your guess is as good as mine, we can now begin to build our UI from this end, and this is looking great. Now, one of the last things I would want to do before we go into Bootstrap and working very deep in bringing that UI up is to create in another file over here. So once again, I'll click on partials, and inside of this, I'll have nav.html. I'll press enter. So once again, this some design principles that I have, and that's simply because our nav bar is going to show in all our pages. So definitely want to have it and do some inheritance and put it in every part of the UI. And the way we go about that is, let's say we have here, and I'm just going to do an H1, and I'll say nav bar like this. So this is nav bar showing up over here. This is nav.html somewhere. Now we can put this inside of our base.html over here, and I'll just do something like this. So inside of this, I'll have a template tag, and I'll do include. So I want to include, and I'll go into partials /nav.html. So I'll save this, and once again, let me just break this up over here. Good. So inside of this, I want to include nav.html, and remember, I'm putting this inside of the base.html. So because index.html is inheriting from base.html, it's going to show up over here, and it's also going to show up in about.html. So now when I come in here and come and refresh, you see that I have my nav bar over here inside of about, and then also I have my nav bar inside of the home page. So this is looking great. Now, one of the last things I would want to do is to come inside of this title, okay, and over here too, just as we did here. So I can simply copy this. So I'll do a Ctrl+C and paste this over here. But then I'll need to change the name. Now this name has to be unique, so I cannot repeat this name twice, because then Bootstrap Django is going to get confused. Flask is going to get confused. I'm quite used to Django anyway. Flask is going to get confused. So I can say title. So I'll just copy this. So I have block title, and I'm ending block over here. And inside of what I have over here, I can now do the block title, and this is about page. So I can say about, and I'll save. And once again, let me just break it up over here. Good. So I have my block title about, and inside of this too, I would want to have my block title, and I'll say home, because this is a home page. So now when I come back and come and refresh, we are getting home page over here. And now if I'm to do this, you can see that we have about page over here, and the nav bar is showing. So we are now going to put up a very good nav bar, and we'll go into Bootstrap and search for nav bar, and I'll click on this. So once again, Bootstrap is going to help us with some of these classes, and we don't have to build everything from scratch. So this is one of the template I use a lot. So I'll just copy this and come in here, and inside of my nav.html, I don't want to have this, but I want to have this piece of UI showing up over here. So now if I'm to come back here and come and refresh, you can see that I have this nav bar. And once again, if I'm to go into my index page, I have this navbar. You can see that the data is changing. Here we have home, and if I'm to do an about, you can see that I have about. The navbar will stay same. So this is good. Now I would want to style it up a little bit. And if you have watched my other Bootstrap videos, you are going to see these things. They are very simple. So you can see that the background over here is very light, okay, or it is whitish in nature. And in order to change it, we just have to come to the very top over here and change this light to, for instance, dark. And I'll also change the background to dark as well. So I'll save this, and voila, here we go. We have this dark background over here. Now I'd also want to change this container fluid to just container. So container will have some kind of margin for the left and right. And now when I save this, you can see that we have this margin showing up over here. So this is looking great. Now I'd want to change the names of the items over here and get rid of some of the things I don't need. So in here, I'm going to change the navbar to do up like this, and I will leave this as the home page, and I'll leave this as the about. So I have home and about, and the rest of the things I have over here, I'm pretty much going to get rid of them. So I'll get rid of these two, and yeah, I think that's just about it. So now if I'm to come back, I'm getting rid of these ones. I'll change this link to about, and now when I refresh, that's exactly what we have over here. So you have the to-dos, to do app, have home and about. All right, so this is looking good. So now the question is, when I click on this, I'm supposed to navigate between the pages, okay? And that's a very simple thing to do. And the way we go about this in Flask is to use, once again, the template tag we have over here, and we are going to use a function, so a URL _for, and inside of this we pass in the name of the function we want to navigate to, and these are the functions we have over here. You can see that we have the index function and we have the about function. So we are going to target the index function over here. So once again, let's go to about, and I'll just type in index, and I'll just copy this. So I'll do a Control-C over here, copy this, and inside of the home page is also going to lead me up to this, and the about page, I'll change this to about. So I'll save this, and when I come back and come and refresh, we don't seem to have any problem. Now when I click on this, we are having an issue over here, and that's because of it's saying that we are misspelling some few things over here. I think we need to put this in a double curly brackets. Let me do this once again. Double curly brackets, and let's go to the very top, this one, and the about page is double curly brackets. Now when I refresh, we don't seem to have any problem. Now when I click on this, you can see that we are in the home page. When I click on this, we get to the about page. When I click on this, we are back to the home page, because that's exactly what we are trying to implement with this logic. All right, so this is looking good, and you can see that we are beginning to build our UI. Now let's concentrate on the home page, because that's exactly where we have everything showing up. So inside of the home page, we are going to have the statistics section, okay? Then in addition, we're also going to have the form part. We're going to have where we have the items being listed out over here. So in order to get the statistics section, let's come back to the index page, and we are going to first of all wrap everything in a container. And in a container, this is what I mean. Let's just bring the home page back over here again. So when I save this, wrapping everything in a container simply means that, remember, this initially was in a container fluid. Now putting it in a container, give it some margin to the left and right. So now when I do this, you can see that this is now in a container class. So inside of the container class, we would want to have a row, and we would want to have a core dash md, and I'll do 6. And let's say I have core 1, and let me just copy this, Control C, Control V, and I'll do a core 2 over here. So basically what you are doing is you are creating a row. So the rows are the horizontal cross sections. Okay, the rows are the horizontal cross sections, and inside of the row we are going to have columns. And Bootstrap uses the 12 grid column system. So as you can see, I have 6 over here, and I have another 6 over here. They add up to 12. So I'm just displaying 1 and 2, and we are going to see them. So when I save this and refresh, you can see that I have 1 and 2 showing up over here. So this is where we have the card, and this is what I'm going to do. So inside of this, I'm going to have the card class. So I'll do a dot card, then I'll do a dot card dash header, and inside of this I'm going to say statistics like this. Now inside of, or outside of this, or inside of the card class, I can now have the card dash body, and inside of the card body, let's say I'll just type in body over here. So I'll save this, and this is exactly what you should expect if you do this properly. So we have this card spanning through the entire column of 6, and we have the card header showing up with the text statistics, and we have inside of the body just body. So now you can see that inside of the body we also had 3 cards. Inside of the body we have 3 cards. So what we are going to do is we are going to also look at this inside of this body alone as a row in itself, and inside of the row we are also going to use the 12 column demarcation system. So inside of this body I'm going to have a row, and I'm going to have a dot call dash md using the medium breakpoint, and I'll do dash 4. So remember, within the 12 column grid system, this is going to be 12. So divide it by 4, then we are going to have 3 parts over here. So I'm going to say 1, and I'll duplicate this. So I'll do a shift alt down arrow key, and I'll change this to 2, and I'll change this to 3. So now when I save this and I'll come back over here, that's exactly what you have over here. So now we are going to put out the card inside of each and every column we have created over here. And I'm doing this because it's kind of get a little bit confusing when I just dump everything on. So I'm taking my time going systematic. So we'll come back here, and inside of this core 1, the first column, we want to have a card, and we don't want a card header, we just want the card dash body. And inside of the card body, we want to have, for instance, an H6 which says total, and under this we want to have a paragraph, and let's say put in 10 over here. Now I'll save this, and now when I refresh, you can see that I have this showing up over here. Now I'd want to center the 10, and this is very simple. So inside of the paragraph tag, I can put in a class of text-center, and here we go. Everything is looking great. Now what I'm going to do is very simple. So I'm just going to grab everything I have inside of this call dash md whatever. So I'll grab this, Control C, and paste it over here because it's basically the same thing. I'll just change the text in there and paste this over here as well. So the first was total, the second is going to be completed, and let's change this to, let's say, 5 to make some sense over here. and I'll say uncompleted, and I'll change this to 5 as well. So I'll save this, and now when I come back here and refresh, you can see that I have things showing up this way. Now you could see that with the final demonstration, I had the cards popping up a little bit, and that's simply because we used some utility classes on them. And over here inside of the main card, okay, which is above statistics, I would want to have the shadow utility class over here. So I'll just do this, and this is just going to make this have some shadow around it. So when I refresh, you can see that this card has a shadow, and the individual cards within also had the shadow. So I'm going to copy this. So I'll do a Control C of the shadow class and put it on the card. Make sure you put it on the card, or by the card actually. So I have this, and I think there's another one over here. So I'll save this, and voila, this is what we have. It's looking great. Good. Now the next thing we are going to look at is this session where we have the form where we can put in our text or our to-do. So in order to do that, that's also very simple. So actually you can now collapse this core MD6. Okay, when we collapse this, now we are left with these two, and the reason why I put these two over here so that we don't mess things up. So in here too, we are going to have a card, then inside of the card we are going to have a card dash header. This header is going to be I'll say to do form. Then under this I'm going to have the card body. So I'll do a dot card body to get a card body class. Then inside of this is where I'll have the form. So let me just type in form over here and save and show you exactly where we've got into. So this is basically what we've done. Good. So inside of this form, I'm going to have the form I have over there. So this is going to be very simple, and in here I'm going to have the form tag, and inside of this I'm going to have a label. So the label, I'm going to say title, and I'm going to have an input of type text. So an input of text, and as you can see we have the name showing up over here. So the name, I'm going to say title. We are not going to use the ID for now, or we are not going to use it, but then I would want to have a placeholder, and I'll say inside of the placeholder I'll do something like add to do, like this. So I'll save this, and if I'm to come back over here, you see we have this showing up over here. Now we need to style this up a little bit, and Bootstrap has some classes for us. So inside of this input, okay, of type text, we can add in a Bootstrap class of form dash control. So when I do a form control and save, now when I come back and come and refresh, you can see that this is now styled up over here. Now the last thing I would need is the button, and it is also very simple. And once again, I'm still inside of the form tag, and I'm going to have an input of type submit. So I'll do input column, then I'll have submit over here. So this is the type submit, and the value I want over here is add. And once again, if I'm to do this and come back and come and refresh, here we have it. Now let's style this a little bit. So inside of this I can do a class of btn dash I'll say primary. So btn dash primary, let me check my spelling. So this is primary. Good. And if I'm to come here and come and refresh, here we have this. Now I would want to add in extra classes over here, because you see this is stuck so much to this, and I would want to kind of separate it a little bit. So I'll do a margin top, so mt2, and I'll do btn dash sm. I need the small btn, or the small button. So when I do this and refresh, here we have this showing up over here. So this is looking great. Now let's also put a shadow class on this, and this is going to be on this card. Okay, so I'll have shadow over here. I'll save this, and here we are. This is looking great. Good. Now the next thing I'd want us to have is to have our to-dos lineup, at least an example of one. So you can see that we are through with this row. Okay, and I can now collapse this as well, and we'd also want to have this still in this container. So once again, I'll click on this and it is ending over here. So I'll come under this. This is capturing this entire row, so I'll come under this, and inside of this container I would want to have a card. So inside of this card, I think I would probably have to change some few things over here as we move along, but don't worry, let's just have this. So I would want to have a card, then I would want to have a card dash body, then inside of the card body I now want to have, for instance, the to do. So first of all, I would want to have something like an H5, and I'll type in 1 and do something like to do, or let's say learn Python. So when I save this, and once again, everything I do, I'll just want to have a preview of it and see how things are going. So you can see that this is what I have over here. Now I would want to separate this a little bit. So let's just put on this card a margin top of 2. So now when I do this and come back, you can see that it is separated a little bit. Let's also have a shadow, and shadow like this. Let me do a margin top of 3. So when I refresh, clearly you can see that this is beginning to look good. Now what I did with the final video or the final product was I didn't use a card on top of this. I just used the border. So instead of the card, I can say border, and I can do, let's say I can do border primary, and this is just going to change the border around it to the blue color. Okay, and we can do, for instance, let's say border dash 5 to also change the thickness of the border, and border dash 5 is not working. No, I think I need to have another border over here. Okay, so border dash 5 and stuff like that. And here we are. Okay, so you can see the thickness has changed. Now I just don't want primary, I just want yeah, I think I'll leave it this way. So border dash 5. So it's just going to change the thickness of the border, and what I can do is I can do a start. So if I'm to do a border dash start, it's just going to make the border only appear at the start of it. Okay, so now when I save this, this is exactly what I had over there. So this is looking great, and now let's try and bring in the other buttons over here. So under this, I would want to have a span, and inside of the span I would want to have something like complete, and in addition to this I would want to have something like an anchor of type, inside of this update, and I would want to have a class of btn dash info, then I'll do btn dash sm. I'll duplicate this, I'll do a shift alt and a down arrow key, and I'll change this to danger and change the text in here to delete. I'll save this, and if I'm to refresh, clearly this is what we have over here, and this is looking okay. Now I'd want to bring in a class over here, and the class that I want is on the span, so I'll do a class of, and this is going to be a badge, and the background is going to be success, so that's going to be the green color. Good. So this is looking great, and I think the UI is done. the rest of it is basically how we are going to write a loop to duplicate this. So for instance, if I'm to do a Ctrl+C like this and paste this a number of times over here and save this, we are going to have this duplicated one way or the other. And I think I'll need to do a Ctrl+Z over here at this point and get this. Okay, so I think what I did was I had to do a Ctrl+Z of the entire card and yeah, duplicate it this way. So now when I come back here, you can see that I have this showing up over here. So this completes the interface, and the next thing we are going to look at is, so far everything we've done is basically Bootstrap and CSS stuff or HTML stuff, and the next thing we are going to look at is how we perform the basic CRUD functionalities or write the logic for the CRUD functionalities. Now if you find this tutorial very interesting and you want to support my work, now there are a couple of ways you can help me achieve that. Now kindly subscribe to KenBroTech and don't forget to hit on the notification button so that anytime I release a video, you'll be duly notified. Also share this video with friends and family who find this content very useful. At KenBroTech, we say learn programming, you can do it. Bye bye and catch you in the next video.